Welcome back, everybody, to the second day of the Heroes of the Storm Summer Championship, live from the DreamHack Studios here in Stockholm, Sweden. It is my honor and duty to welcome you back to another exciting day full of Heroes of the Storm action. And boy, did we have a day yesterday. I would also like to give a welcome to the fellows here at the cozy seat desk. Jay, how are you doing today?
Cozy indeed, man. After yesterday's slow start to a little bit of the action, but we ended on a pretty high note. I think today is going to be even more exciting than yesterday.
Definitely. I mean, we once again have a really stacked roster of teams dugging it out between themselves, so definitely keep an eye out for those. Todd, also good to have you back here. How did you enjoy your first day of Heroes of the Storm yesterday?
Yeah, it wasn't my first day ever on Heroes of the Storm. I did enjoy it, and looking forward to seeing who can advance here, and if our first match teams here can do better, because they didn't go so well for either of them in their match yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was a little bit one-sided during the first series indeed, but the last one between Gale Force Esports and Big God certainly was pretty much a nail-biter here. James, how did you enjoy yesterday's matches?
Very much so, especially considering that going from spring to summer, I actually believe that the lesser regions have actually improved quite a bit. And actually were able to contend a little bit more with some of the larger regions per se. So I was very, very happy to see that. Obviously, they didn't quite take many games or many objectives during these things, but they certainly did better than they did in spring.
Yeah, it's definitely important to highlight that these teams, that the lesser known teams are by no means just cannon fodder for the big ones. They actually put up a really good fight there, especially Big Gods, as we mentioned, but also Renovatio 1 and Negative Synergy. They had their moments to shine. And we're actually going to take a look at the road to Summer Championships. I mean, we see all the regions here. We have North America, Europe, South Korea, South America. There's a lot of teams or a lot of regions that have sent the best of the best over. And it's really cool to see that Heroes of the Storm has become such a global phenomenon, and all of these teams are really trying their best to not only get a little piece of the cake in terms of prize money, but most importantly, of course, they want the glory and the honor.
I think for a long time, actually, like global tournaments were kind of lacking. So I'm so happy to finally see more and more in Heroes of the Storm, because, you know, Europeans playing against Europeans is fun, sure, but you want to see all of the regions clash eventually. And again, we're seeing that more and more.
I mean, you talk about the clashing. Like, I think there's a favorite a little bit in this group with MVP Black, but they're going up against the familiar foe, an X team later. And I think just the teams that we're going to be seeing now, I mean, if you put MVP Black as the favorite, I feel like any of the remaining teams could be that second qualifier. And I think that's what's exciting about this group stage here, is that we're not sure who's going to make it. And as Claris had said, I mean, the improvement on these other teams, it's noticeable.
It's definitely there. I would like to see maybe I think Renovatio was one of the teams that really impressed me a lot, even despite Big Gods taking
especially
a game
during
off
the first game.
GeForce. Yeah, despite Big Gods taking a game off GeForce were under a little bit of a bad condition going in yesterday. It's well documented and well known by the community out there that obviously some of their members have some issues with travel, etc., and things like that. But Renovatio definitely impressed me. I was interested to see if we could see a Renovatio versus X team. Depends what's going on. I mean, we were talking to Negative Synergy before, and they seem pretty confident going up against.
Yeah, and we've mentioned a couple of team names here now in this discussion round. So let's actually take a look at the groups overall. I mean, this is a double group stage tournament, so this one is actually the first one, and the best 4 teams coming out of these Group A and B will then face the first seeded teams from the other regions that are eagerly waiting. For example, Team Dignitas, then Team Tempest. We've got going Team Naventic as well, of course, and E-Star Gaming. So definitely not an easy obstacle to overcome. But we see MVP Black and X team. These two teams will dug it out in the winners match today, and Renovatio against Negative Synergy, of course, in the losers match. And only the losers match will be decisive in terms of dropping out or not, because the loser between those two teams will actually have to say goodbye from the tournament, whereas the loser from the winners match between MVP Black and X team, they still have another go.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's finally starting to become elimination day. We had a lot of action, and then, you know, we'll have another day tomorrow. I think this is the part to where things get real for these teams. Like, you can't drop another game. You kind of said, hey, we have a fallback, but today is the day. I mean, you'll still be able to enjoy the experience, but you don't want to lose, and you want to be able to try and move on. And today's going to be an exciting day, I think, because I think people are going to step up their game a little bit because of that.
Absolutely, and I think it's really good, too, that they had a whole day to think about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, get some good rest, talk a lot about the potential draft, the maps that could be played and all that, it's really going to help both these teams really kind of come together, take their time and prepare properly. So I can't wait to see what they bring to the table here.
Especially in this Group A, I feel, because you've got X Team and MVP Black, who do have history. They've played each other in Gold League, and then you've got Negative Synergy and Renovation going up against one another, who have history. They've got very close during spring, and have even practiced with one another during all of this time. So there's going to be, going into drafts, especially when we eventually get there, there's going to be a lot of things to talk about because the prioritizations, especially for these teams, are actually quite close together.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, James, especially Group A does have its very own uniqueness to it because it is a matchup between regions, right? You mentioned it, X Team and MVP Black, they have faced each other in the Super League and in the Gold League, excuse me, before. And this is exactly what's being reflected in the bracket here for Group A, at least, in a winner's match. MVP Black, the current reigning world champion from the Spring Championship, you know, yesterday it was actually interesting to hear that they are charging up a little bit more now. They were at 30% of their final power level, so 100% is certainly going to be very scary. And down in the lower half, we have, of course, the losers match, Renovatio 1 versus Negative Synergy. And as you pointed out, Kalaris, I mean, we have seen some potential, and I think these two teams will actually fight on even terms. They are roughly in the respective leagues, so I think we can expect a really interesting best of 3 between those two.
I think for sure. I mean, if you're looking at a match to get started off, to create some type of excitement, I think these guys are on even playing fields in terms of their skill level and their talent level. And I think that this could be an exciting match, of course, leading throughout the day. There's no reason today. I mean, we had some 2-0s yesterday. There's no reason today that we couldn't have three-game series across the board all day long.
Yeah, and there is an interesting contrast as well between these two teams where, personally, I thought that yesterday, Negative Synergy maybe wasn't as impressive here as their future opponents, but the last time these two faced, Negative Synergy won 2-0 very convincingly. So there is always, you know, that thing that plays like, you know, which is it going to be this time, and yeah.
Yeah, we could see the reverse of that. I mean, Renovatio could easily go 2-0 themselves, or it could even go the same way, as you've just mentioned.
Yeah.
The thing is that both of the teams actually share relatively similar hero pools, apart from outside of the Warriors and maybe even.
Can you maybe give some examples? Like, what could be contested picks for these upcoming drafts?
Well, again, you know, when I was mentioning yesterday about like Rega, ETC, Greymane, and Sonya being very highly prioritized by Renovatio, that kind of comes similar, or 3 of those become similar when you actually look at Negative Synergy's drafts. But then beyond that, when it comes to some of the Warriors and Li Ming on the side of Renovatio, there is difference there, with then Sylvanas also being something that is a little bit more higher prioritized for one of the teams. Quite can't remember which one. We'll take a look at it in the drafts if it does come along, of course.
And what we're also going to take a look is, of course, at how Renovatio 1 prepared themselves for this upcoming match, because we have prepared a little video for you, so I hope you enjoy.